Myself Tamanna from 10th standard in Jamia Nadwiyya Residential High School.
Myself Shafeer from Jamia Nadwiyya Residential School and standard.
Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you become interested in your field?
So thank you so much for your question. So I understand your question is about my background and my motivation to do my research. So I did my PhD from South Korea. So my PhD topic was on how we can make electricity using bacteria. So I did my PhD for around 3 years and published some high quality papers. Then I got a funding from Japan government called Japan Society for Promotion of Science. We are calling JSPS. And I moved to University of Tokyo for a 2 years postdoctoral fellowship. In Tokyo, I did research how bacteria, what is the mechanism behind this kind of electricity production, like fundamental mechanism. I was there around 2 years, and later I moved to KAUST in Saudi Arabia. So there I was again working with electrically active bacteria. In KAUST, we got a huge funding to find electrically active microbe from Red Sea, because we have a Red Sea in Saudi Arabia, and we went to around a 2 kilometer depth, grabbed the sediment from the deep sea, and our aim was to discover new and novel microbes which is electrically active from the sea sediment. Then after KAUST, I got a Marie Curie fellowship from European Union and moved to University of Cambridge, where I changed my life because we got a very huge funding. And from Cambridge, I again did so many fundamental understanding on electrically active microbes, published lots of papers. Then I got an independent faculty position from Northumbria University, Newcastle, where it is based on Northeast England. Currently, I have 3 PhD students working with me, and I am there around 3 years. That is my short research background. Then why I went to this field, one of the motivation is that, whenever we are actually starting our early education, we learned about lots of scientists, right? So that actually inspired us. What about whether we can do some kind of discovery? That inspired us and inspired me also to do some research. So during my master degree, I applied for a funding from which is based in South Korea, got a funding, and I moved to South Korea. But the real motivation came when I got Marie Curie fellowship. So that is the motivation. Still, this motivation is continuing. I'm very actively engaged in research with a couple of very bright students.
What brought you to this university?
The question is that why I moved to my present university. So presently I am at Northumbria University, Newcastle. So why I moved there, the Northumbria University got a funding from Research England, around 8 million funding. So they were hiring a couple of scientists to run that funding. So I moved in 2020 during the COVID time, and they hired me because they got a funding which is actually, we can utilize that funding to do sustainable research. So using that funding, we got lots of PhD students, and we made our own research building there, which allowed lots of freedom to do the research. That's one of the main thing which I moved to the university, because for doing the a very high quality research, we need funding, and Research England generously funded for us. That is one of the motivation why I moved to Northumbria. So still we have lots of funding from industry like Johnson Matthey, Procter & Gamble. So we are very rich with the funding, which actually making me very happy and stay with the Northumbria University.
What are the challenges have you faced in your academic career, and how did you overcome them?
The question is that what kind of obstacle or hurdle actually I overcome during my research journey. So as I said earlier, that I did my PhD from South Korea, which is like a non-English speaking country. So I moved there, I really struggled a lot initial 1 year because the language problem and different culture, different people. So usually when you are moving outside our own country, especially even outside our state, we are actually meeting lots of people, sometimes very difficult to adapt. So I took around 1 year to adapt. That was one of the challenges which I faced during my early stage of my research. But after 1 year, I was really got a good skill to adapt the different culture. and I was very successful during my PhD time. Even though I have initial earlier period I struggled. Then second thing that when we are doing PhD, the thing that what will do the next after PhD? That's the question. People will ask you what will do after the PhD. So I was also initially I have some confusion what I will do. Will come back to India, stay in some colleges or university. But then I heard from my colleagues that there are some fellowship which will allow you to do more research. Then when I applied, it was really hard to make, especially when I applied for my Japan funding. We need to write some part in Japanese language, and my Japanese host actually helped me to convert to translate to Japanese language. There are some that kind of obstacle. I not like a very big challenges, but some cultural challenges, some language barrier. But eventually I overcome. And also in research, one obstacle we usually facing is that failure in the experiment. So some of the experiment failed miserably initial stage. Sometimes we are understanding the failure after 1 year. So that will anyway it will motivate us. Actually, we are getting some negative result, and finally we are actually rectifying that kind of research result and getting a good final outcome. So usually there will be challenges during the entire. Still I have challenges. So challenges making more deeper research, brighten your mind. So I think challenges will be there, but it is how we will face it. That is the main question.
What message would you like to give students for pursuing a career in teaching?
The question is that about my research background. So I did my PhD from South Korea, and research was on how bacteria making electricity. So that was my PhD thesis. During my PhD time, I discovered lots of phenomenon about electrically active bacteria. Then I got a fellowship from University of Tokyo, that is Japan Society for Promotion of Science, which is actually funded by Japan government, and moved to University of Tokyo after my PhD. So immediately after PhD, I moved to University of Tokyo, and I spent 2 years at the University of Tokyo where I studied fundamental mechanism in bacterial electrotransport. And after 2 years of my experience at the University of Tokyo, I moved to KAUST in Saudi Arabia, where I got a big funding to find electrically active bacteria in Red Sea. So what we are doing that, we actually went to around 2 to 3 kilometer distance, a deep distance to the Red Sea, and our aim was to find electrically active bacteria from the sea sediment. So we got some interesting bacteria species which can make electricity from waste. Then after my KAUST life, I got a very competitive Marie Curie fellowship from European Union, and then I moved to University of Cambridge, where I again did lots of study on electrically active bacteria, and I did genome analysis for this kind of special bacteria. And I spent around 3 years at University of Cambridge, where actually I got lots of inspiration to the research. And finally, during the COVID time, I got a permanent position, professorship at the University of Northumbria at Newcastle. This is a northeast England part. And now I have 3 PhD students with me, where I doing my research, actively doing my research, funded by Research England and some other industry like Procter & Gamble and Johnson Matthey. So currently I am doing research how we can use sunlight, bacteria, and converting carbon dioxide to solar fuels and chemicals.
It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you for the interview section.
Yeah, thank you so much for a very interesting question, and I'm happy to chat with you. Thank you.